So for this little rather more informal screencast, we thought we'd just look at some of the little hints and tips that might help you move from being a beginner or intermediate CODA user to a true CODA guru. So the first thing we want to recommend is that you try double-clicking on things. There are a surprising number of places in CODA where a simple double-click will give you information that you want to get at. So if I double-click on a source, I can change its name, I can change its rotation, I can change the way it's scaled, and I can see things like how large it is and who uploaded it and when. That, by the way, the double-clicking is the equivalent of selecting the source and clicking the edit button down in the bottom here. I can also double-click on a playlist, and I can see more details about the playlist. I can sort things into random order, or ask it to display things in random order. I can display a variety of different captions on it and so forth. If I'm looking at a playlist and I double-click on a playlist entry, as we've already seen, that lets me change the duration, and you can specify this duration in a variety of different ways, as seconds, minutes, hours, to your heart's content. If we go back to the sources here for the moment, you can see that some sources have this little shortcut arrow on here. That indicates that they're not actually stored on the CODA servers themselves, but these are links, these are references to content that's somewhere else. So this is a reference to the Camvine homepage, for example, and you can copy, modify, deal with the URL there. Try copying it into your browser to check that it does actually work and you spelt it right. It's worth remembering that when content is displayed on a screen, it is typically fetched from that remote source at the time it's displayed. So things like webcam images, if you can find the URL for the actual image, will give you an up-to-date and different image every time they're shown on your CODA system. Another thing to remember is these two views down here. Normally displays and sources are displayed alphabetically. But we can also display them chronologically, where the things you've looked at or modified recently are the ones that appear first. So let's go to content assignment, for example. Let's just see, I only want to look at the sources I've been dealing with recently. To get them to the top of the list, just click this little clock down here. It's often more useful, actually, than the alphabetical sorting. Here's another thing we can do here. This, we can make a screen go blank by selecting it and clicking the blank button. That basically removes the assignment of any source to it, and we can see it's been told to power off here. And these status screens, as we've mentioned elsewhere, often only actually update once the page is refreshed. So I'm going to reload the overall control screen in my browser. And because I came in here, it's taken me back to content. But if I now go here, we can see that both of these are now powered off. That's display is powered off directly. This one's powered off because this schedule has nothing for this time of day in it. And the way to turn a screen back on again is just to assign something to it. So again, if I do that, it's been assigned. Next time I come back to this page, this will be green because the display will have woken up. A more sophisticated way sometimes of managing multiple screens is as follows. Suppose you have a set of content that you want to display in your corridor displays. I'm going to create a playlist, which I'm just going to call Corridor. I'm going to go to Content Assignment. It's at the top because we're on chronological here. And I'm going to, actually I can select multiple displays here. So these are my corridor displays, and I'm going to assign that one playlist to all of them. So all of my corridor displays are now showing the corridor playlist, and then I can manipulate what's in that corridor playlist. I can say I want this in there, and maybe I want this one in there as well, and I don't have to think about reassigning things to the corridor displays all of the time. What's in this playlist will get displayed on all the screens in the corridors. Another good hint is to keep an eye on the Tools menu at the top here. Have you explored that yet? There's lots of good stuff going on in there and new stuff being added all of the time. So keep having a look there for exciting new things you can do with CODA. Another thing that many people find helpful if they have large numbers of sources or large numbers of displays is to adopt conventions for naming them. this is mostly useful because you can then narrow things down by searching for them here. So if we look, for example, at my displays here, the ones that are actually in portrait mode, I've actually got portrait in the name. And so I can just type a few letters and it narrows down to only the things on which portrait content would look good. And lastly, keep an eye on the help menu, the help button here. This takes you to the documentation on the CODA website. There's a CODA user guide which has lots of detailed information about using CODA, and you can find out all sorts of useful hints, tips, other documentations, notes for developers and so on in the support and documentation side on the main CODA website. And don't forget the FAQ as well. I hope that's useful, and I hope it'll help enhance your use of CODA and turn you from a beginner into a CODA guru.